Welcome, ladies. How are you in 2020? Welcome back from our brief hiatus during the holidays. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. Now it's back to work, everybody. Let's get this journey started. Now, today, I just want to talk about a couple of things. We're going to dive into our expectations for 2020 and really honing in on becoming and being and living as a undomesticated woman in 2020, breaking the shackles of OPE, other people's expectations. Welcome again, ladies. This is Tony Taria from Freedom at the Crossroads, and welcome to the Undomesticated Woman podcast series. Now, for those of you who have been following us since the beginning, welcome back and thanks for sticking with us. It's been a journey, and hopefully and joyfully we will be going forward and fully powering up and elevating you, ourselves, and our entire community of women across the globe to be those undomesticated women, to go out, grab the world by, whatever means necessary, and really shake things up so that we can make a positive impact on the world, even as we ourselves grow, elevate, and become stronger and truly become who we were always called to be as women and as human beings on this planet we call Earth. Now, having said that, a number of things are in the media right now. For anybody who's living under a rock right now, Australia is currently on fire, literally. It's, a terrible thing to witness on the television, to see such a, country that's such a beautiful place, full of, diverse people, as well as flora and fauna, literally suffering in the wake of the decisions made by other human beings. And, when I say by other human beings, I'm talking about the fact that allegedly there are some individuals involved who actually set fires, arsonists who set fires at this time when the country is going through a tremendous drought. And, to get some perspective too, we all have to, admit on a global level that climate crisis that we are experiencing across the globe, it is real. And a lot of it is largely due to human activity, how we have squandered natural resources, how we have mistreated the environment and the ecosystems that we cohabitate with. Now, having said that, on a political front now, we also have some bad decisions being made in terms of leadership, particularly here in the U.S., where things are being shaken up to a crazy degree across the globe with the impending threat of not just war in the Middle East, but this escalating to potentially a World War III kind of situation. And that just has led to a lot of thoughts and conversations online with other women and within, my own family and, sphere of individuals that I talk to, regularly. And we all have one conclusion. And it drives home that fact that I have been driving at for so long and speaking about for so much. And that has to do with decisions. It has to do with what you will and will not tolerate. It has to do with OPE, yes, other people's expectations. And when you validate and value yourself based on OPE, other people's expectations, when you lay on that altar of OPE, bad decisions are inevitable. Arguably, we have a president here in the United States who validates himself through who likes him, lacks complete sense of self, and finds value only in accolades, false or real. Now, switching it back to us ladies and what that has to do with us, we see the same thing in our own lives all the time, where we constantly look for validation in the media. We allowed ourselves as domesticated. And when I say that's the difference between being domesticated and undomesticated, in my estimation. When you are domesticated, when you have been pushed down and pressed upon to fit certain molds of society in order to be accepted, that's domestication. When you buck the status quo, when you say enough is enough and decide to get off that hamster wheel going nowhere and say, no, I own self. I choose to grow. I choose to elevate myself. I choose to reclaim my power and value myself rather than looking on the outside and the external to give me value. That's where it all lies. When it comes to self-care and the self-love journey, it's about empowerment, and ultimately that's one of the major driving forces behind self-care. If you truly do the research and look at the history of the self-care, the real self-care movement, which is what I speak of, not the one that has been sanitized and popularized and appropriated by media and marketing forces within the health and pseudo health and wellness industry. I'm talking about real people, real women choosing to become advocates for themselves and their families, choosing to take back power and dominion over their own bodies and their own decisions about their own health and wellness and emotional health and mental health as well. So when we think of this whole notion of self-care, when we think of empowerment, arguably self-care and empowerment are interchangeable because it requires that you take action. It requires that you make the decision to be whole. It requires that you awaken to the fact of what is lacking in your own self internally, those things, those aspects of self that need to be worked on in order for you to be whole and healthy as an individual and as a woman. We all know these myths of the superwoman and, running around like a headless chicken, constantly giving of self until there's nothing left to give, all laying on the hope that others outside of you will see your value, that they will love you, that they will see your needs and address your needs because you're giving so much of yourself away. As I've said before, and I'll say it again in 2020, no one's coming to rescue you. There is no savior coming to save you, coming to give you what you need as an individual that's going to establish boundaries so that you can self-nourish, self-care, so that you can grow and elevate into who you were always meant to be. Recognizing that human beings and most life forms across the planet are inherently selfish to varying degrees, and that's neither a judgment or a condemnation or what have you. It's just the fact. And that's why you have such things as boundaries. You have them in the natural world, you have them in the physical world, you have them in the spiritual world, and you should have them in relationships and the way you navigate around other individuals, the way you interact with yourself and with others. Because if you do not establish boundaries, if you do not set standards, guess what? Others will do it for you. And 9 times out of 10, it's never in your best interest. Remember, humans and other life forms are inherently opportunistic, selfish. And selfishness in and of itself is not necessarily bad. It's bad when it's out of control and lacks boundaries. But a sense of self-preservation is a good thing. It helps us self-nourish. It helps us set standards. And it checks behavior of others as well as self. And so these are just a few of the things I'm ruminating on here at Freedom at the Crossroads. And as an undomesticated woman speaking in this Undomesticated Woman podcast series, you must take action. You must make a decision. You cannot sit and wait for things to happen. You cannot sit and wait for others to advocate for you. Historically, women have been pressed and pushed into positions where they have been conditioned into believing and accepting certain roles doled out to them by society for the benefit of the status quo and of those in power. And that has to end. The state of the world that we live in has deemed it necessary that we stop sitting on the sidelines of our lives and our communities and our environments. The more active we become as women, the more we reclaim our own power and reclaim our own sense of self, the more we can bring this world back into alignment and our situations and our communities into alignment. Toxic masculinity and patriarchy are running wild and utterly destroying the world that we live in. And if we hope to have a world for tomorrow and for our legacy and for our children and family members and people that we love, we must rise up, reclaim our power, reclaim dominion over self, set standards, set healthy boundaries. We must self-care. And as we self-care and empower ourselves through that, we are able to cause a ripple effect globally and locally, where that notion of self-care is activated outside of ourselves. So that's just something to think about for 2020. This is Tonya from Freedom at the Crossroads, helping women everywhere look better, feel better without the pressure of yes, OPE. Till next time, stay tuned, ladies.